Hey there everyone, and welcome to Retcon Reads. I know it's been a while, so I hope you guys that are readers are still here and are still interested in the books that I've been reading. Now, today I'm going to spend some time breaking down a novel that I've read, and normally it'd be one that I read recently, but this time it's a book that I read probably over a year ago now, and I recorded this when I read it, but unfortunately it kind of got lost in the airwaves, I guess. So I'm here, I'm recording it again. So if my brain's a little foggy about the details, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys about this. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I just want to throw this out into the universe. As with our Retcon Air episodes, this is not meant to be a beatdown on the story or on the author. I'm covering a piece of writing that I've literally spent hours reading and even more hours thinking about. So it's because I loved it or it drew me in, and I'm not an author yet, but I hope to be one day. So I would never ever try to diss on something that somebody spent so much of their time and energy writing and putting into the world. Please continue to reach out to me with all of your book recommendations. I absolutely love to get new recommendations. And if you have any questions, comments, anything, if you've read the book, let me know in the comments down below. So if all of that sounds good to you, please continue listening while we talk about Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. And as you can see, I have my little book loft sticker on this. So let's talk about Interview with the Vampire, and let's get started with the summary. And I'm actually going to, oh, you know what? Oh yeah, I can read it from the back. This is a really short summary. Okay. Here are the confessions of a vampire. Hypnotic, shocking, and chillingly erotic, this is a novel of mesmerizing beauty and astonishing force. A story of danger and flight, of love and loss, of suspense and resolution, and of the extraordinary power of the senses. It is a novel that only Anne Rice could write. So my thoughts on that, even now, so I have my summary here that I had written when I read the book. But even now, like, that's a very intense summary, especially with it being so short. I'm not sure if it's the one that was originally published with this, but it's the one that's on the back of this version. I do think that it's a little bit of an over-exaggeration. It touched on all the points of the story really well and didn't really give any, like, important details away, which I think is really cool. But I think it's like a little intense. The story's intense too, don't get me wrong, but I think the summary's a little intense. But it does obviously tell you that you're going to get to learn about a vampire's life and what they have to say about it, which is accurate. That's what we learn about in this book. As for my retcon points for this, what I'd retcon for this one is pretty simple. I wish the confusion of platonic love between a parent and a child vampire in this story, and the sexual tension between them wasn't so apparent in the case of Louis. I wish that the sexual tension wasn't so apparent between Louis and Claudia. Claudia was not Louis's physical child, but he raised her along with Lestat, and he really taught her the ways of a vampire. And it's just really disturbing to me to think about the fact that, like, she'd mature into an adult woman without actually growing out of that child's body. And then also, you know, does the mind mature like that? That's the way it seemed in the story, right? But it's disturbing to me, I guess, that in the story, you know, another adult vampire or person in general could love her personality and her mind, but obviously, I'm sorry, my air conditioner turned on, but obviously it's so inappropriate to be physical with her, right? Because she's in a child's body. The tension was clear between them, and although that line was never crossed in the story between Louis and Claudia, it was just icky, disturbing, I guess, to me. it was just too blurred for my liking, I guess. So reading portions of this story made me uncomfortable, and they really made Louis uncomfortable too, because I think he would have definitely felt the same way if he was, you know, a real person. Regardless of how many years had passed after she was turned, she was still that many years younger than him, first of all, and he still raised her and showed her the ways of the world. So I think if I was in that situation, it would have to be 100% parental and nothing more than that. And I think that the description of their relationship throughout the story kind of blurred that line a little bit. And also, on that note, it's important to realize that just because you read something doesn't mean it was necessarily intended that way. And it doesn't mean that it's okay, or that the author thought it was okay or agreed with it, you know, any of that stuff. It's just a part of the story, and obviously with the world nowadays and how much we're hearing about poor children being taken advantage of, obviously my stance or my opinion of something that I read might be a little bit more likely to lean that way, to think that it's that way, just because I'm on guard for that because I have a child. My review of the book, overall, I thought the novel was really, really intriguing. I didn't have a hard time getting into it at all, and it was really interesting to me. I love the interaction between the old and the new vampires, and thinking about how much of a struggle it would be for the older vampires to continue to change with the times, as obviously the world is just changing around them, and to them it's probably the blink of an eye, and they have to try and figure out how to live with all these changes and all these different things. And the ending was just really a cliffhanger. Obviously, you'll know that if you've read it. I had never thought about the idea of a vampire who was made when they were a child, yet matured into an adult in their head while their body remained the same. I hadn't thought about the implications that would come along with that, and with anyone ever falling in love with the person, you know, the personality inside of that body. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to let yourself, right? Because it's a child. Oh, it's so much, right? It'd be a really lonely life for that vampire, any vampire who would stay a physical child but mentally become an adult. I was happy to see Anne also took some time to cover consent in this, of course with a vampire twist. Louis acted in a way that went against his nature and almost destroyed him, only to realize later that he had been forced by another vampire. They spoke of how unacceptable this was and how it almost changed Louis forever, and how it could never happen again, which I thought was really, really cool to discuss in a book, even if it was obviously a fantasy novel. You know, it was cool to see that. And I think that's all I wanted to touch on for my review. So let's get to the interesting facts. I don't have any interesting facts for this. So that being said, you know what? Interesting fact, there are multiple books in this series, and since I read this, I happened to pick up this version, the Vampire Chronicles, which has Interview with a Vampire, this one, and then the Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned. So if you're interested in me covering the next book or the next two books, definitely let me know. It is on my bookshelf to read here soon, so I would be happy to read it and have some discussions with you guys. And also, if you're interested in us covering the movie, or even me covering the movie, and giving you like a comparison to the novel, I would definitely do that, because I love Interview with a Vampire. The movie, I actually watched it before I read the book. Book's better as always, but not to be a total nerd, but I would definitely watch it again and would love to discuss it with any of you guys. So if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments as well. You're welcome to check us out on Twitter, although we're not very active there right now, and we're just at Retcon Air. And we're also still on Facebook and on Instagram, and anywhere that you want to reach out to us, you definitely can. It just might take a couple days for us to respond to you, but we will. If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already, I highly recommend that you do. I know it looks like we haven't been putting out very much content recently because we haven't, right? But I'm hoping to get back into it, and I'm hoping that maybe things will work out so the guys can get back into it here in the near future as well. But for the meantime, I'm here. I have a couple more videos that I'm going to be filming even tonight, so I will be here, and I would love to talk to you guys and see you again in the next video. Bye. Is it Louis or Louise? 1 second. Louis? Louis? How do you say Louis? Oh my god. How to say Louis? Louis. Okay, Louis. Emphasis on the we, it says.